Hello, 5th grade. So today we are going to make the sculpture in the round. And the learning objectives that we're working on today are to combine simple forms to create a complex form in the round. So some of the simple forms we might create today, I'm going to show you the bottom of it. We're going to create a cylinder. We might create a rectangular prism or a triangular prism. So taking simple 3D simple forms, 3D forms, and putting them together to create a more complex sculpture in the round. And we're also going to use paper joining techniques. Two paper joining techniques that you need to use are tabs, and that's where you cut part of a rectangle and you use that to glue onto something else. And we're going to use slits, and this is an example of slits right here. So what I did was I cut little slits into the top of this triangular prism, and I took this zigzag piece and I wove it into the slits to hold that to sit down into that space. So a sculpture in the round, remember, is meant to be viewed from all sides. So when you're working on this, you need to be turning your sculpture around and looking at it, making it sure it's interesting. It also needs to be able to stand up on its own. If it's falling over, that's not a sturdy sculpture. And so I use some of those paper joining techniques here too. So let me show you how we're going to start this today. You're going to start with a large white piece of paper, and I want you to choose a 4-digit number. Any 4 digits, any 4 numbers, and you're going to write it nice and tall, touching the top and the bottom of your paper. So I'm going to write 2004. That's the year my daughter was born. So it's a special year for me. So when I write the 2, I'm making sure I write the 2 touching the top of the paper, coming down and touching the bottom, and even I can make it come over and touch the front of the paper. So I need to fit 3 more numbers on here. If I draw my zeros really big, I'm going to run out of room. So I'm going to draw them more like ovals, touching the top and bottom of my paper. And then my last number, I'm going to make touch the top, the bottom, and the right-hand side. So I made my 2 touch the left-hand side, top and bottom. I'm going to make my 4 touch the top, right side, and bottom. Now your numbers can touch each other, or you can leave a little bit of space between them. It is completely up to you. Then you're going to use marker to color in. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a marker, and you can use whatever colors you want. I tend to stick with one color. So you saw my sculpture, I stuck with blue throughout the whole thing, but you could do rainbow colors, or you could limit your color palette to just a few colors, or you could limit it to just one color. It's completely up to you. Since I missed that one there, I'm going to erase that. Okay. All right. So now what this does, by making your numbers touch the top and the bottom and the right and the left hand side, it breaks this paper up into different shapes and different spaces. And in each one of these spaces, I want you to draw a different pattern. They can be simple, but you should also include some more complex ones. So in smaller areas, I'm going to do simple patterns. So just one item drawn over and over and over again, filling the paper. And I put it close together. Or if I wanted to do a simple pattern but put those farther apart, then what I would like you to do is color every other one in. So you create some contrast, some dark and light values. So I'm going to take color in a stripe, skip a space, color a stripe, skip a space, color a stripe. So those are 2 examples of stripes. Fat stripes colored every other one in, or real close together, skinny stripes. And you're going to keep doing this over and over again in each space. So this would have a different pattern. This space here has a pattern. This has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, a 4th pattern, a 5th pattern between the O's, or you could do a 5th pattern here, and since the green touches here, do a 6th pattern, 7th pattern, 8th pattern, 9th pattern, 10 pattern, 11, 12. 12 different patterns. But once you get this all drawn in marker, lots of different patterns, lots of different colors, you're going to choose a piece of construction paper the same size as your starting paper. And I am running extremely low on glue, so please don't go crazy, but you are going to be a bit of a glue monster today. The first thing you're going to do is put a frame of glue along the edge of the construction paper, and then you're going to cover the inside of the rectangle with some more glue. And I just kind of go back and forth with a zigzag. Just get enough in there. I mean, don't go crazy. I mean, you could sit here and keep squeezing and keep going and going, and it's just wasteful, and I'm running low on glue. So let's not waste the glue. Just kind of do a quick zigzag across the middle, and then you're going to lay this down on top of the construction paper. You won't be able to see the edges of the construction paper. You're gonna put this down on top, and then write your name on the back of the colored paper. And the day you have art, day A, day B, day C. Then you will put this on the drying rack to dry. It has to be dried completely. So when you come back, your paper, construction paper, will be glued on the back, and your drawing will be glued to the front. So now you need to cut out these numbers. So I'm not going to cut this bottom of the 2 out because that's resting on the bottom of my paper. I'm just going to come up and cut right down the middle of this blue, this light blue line, and follow the top of the number 2. Now, unfortunately, it didn't touch quite up here, so I didn't cut it off, so I'm going to chop that off there. So there I have 2 pieces. So now I'm going to cut out my 0 right down the middle of the light blue. Okay, so here's all of my pieces for my sculpture. So now I'm going to take simple forms to create a complex sculpture in the round, and I'm going to use tabs and slits. So the first thing I'm going to do is find a straight edge so that will sit down on the table pretty carefully. And I'm going to make a cylinder, a simple form, a cylinder, by bringing this around. It's also known as a roll. Bringing this around and gluing it so that it stays in a circle shape or a cylinder shape so that I can set it on the table and start working from there. So the first thing I'm going to do, put a dot of glue, and then I'm going to sit here and hold this a while. We have the construction paper on the back of our drawing so that it gives it some stiffness and will hold its shape a little bit better. And I'm going to get a lot of glue on my fingers, so you're going to want to get a paper towel to clean that glue off as you work. So I'm going to hold this in place until it gets sticky enough to hold its shape. So that might be a little while. You might have to be patient and sit and hold it for a little while. Most of you like to talk to your neighbors, so that shouldn't be an issue. While you sit there and talk to your neighbors and hold it till it stays stuck. I'm going to try and find another piece that I can make another base from to sit on. Here's a straight side. So on this one, I think I'll make a rectangular prism. So what I'm going to do to make a rectangular prism is I'm going to fold a tab over. Now remember, that's one of our paper joining techniques. So I'm going to fold a tab over, and I'm going to leave that tab folded, just a small tab. Then I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to fold it in half. Then I'm going to open it up, but I'm not going to open up the tab, and I'm going to bring this side into that fold, and then this side into this fold. So now I've created a square, a rectangular prism, and then this tab is where I put the glue on to come and wrap around the edge of the end of my rectangular prism, and so now I have a square, a rectangular prism square, a simple form that can stand up and hold its shape, and I can build my base from. So I'm going to give the glue a little bit of time to get sticky. Okay, another shape that you could build, simple shape or simple form that you could build is a triangular prism. And that's a little bit easier. You don't really make a tab, even though you end up using a tab. I'll show you in a minute. So you don't make a tab like the rectangular prism, but you fold it exactly the same. You fold it in half, open it up, bring the end in towards the middle fold, the other side in towards the middle fold. Now I open this up, And what I end up having is one side of this paper is going to be a gigantic tab. So I'm going to draw a square line, a square of glue, and this is going to be my tab. And I'm going to overlap, and that's how you make a triangular prism, which is another simple form that will combine to make a more complex form. Okay, so I have 3 forms made right now, a cylinder or a circular roll. I have a rectangular prism and a triangular prism. So I'm going to start gluing these together to start to create the base to build my sculpture off of. So since this has the tab, I'm going to put a line of glue here, and I'm going to glue it to this side of my sculpture. And I'm making sure that I keep it sitting on the table so that I don't accidentally slide this up and then they're off. They need to be lined up exactly the same at the bottom so that this will stand up and balance. And then for the triangular prism, I think I'll glue it to the top of this cylinder. And as you work on this, it has to hold its balance. It has to balance. So put a piece on and hold it there for a while, then pull your hand away and see if it's going to stand up. If it's going to keep toppling over, then you know you need to put a heavier piece on the other side so that it'll stop toppling over. It's okay if it topples over now, see? Now it wants to topple over. So that's okay, but now that tells me I need to put something on this side. Since it's top heavy on this side and wants to fall this way, I need to put something on the opposite side. Now I'm going to use the slits as another form paper joining technique. So we use tabs, and that's part of the learning objective, but now we need to use slits. So we're using the paper joining techniques of tabs and slits. So now with the slits, I'm going to cut a straight line in on my rectangular prism and my circular roll or cylinder roll. And then I'm going to fold this back and forth and attach it with the slits. So I'm going to fold this back and forth to get a zigzag. Then I'm going to put this piece into the slit here and then put the other end on the slit here. And I want you to make sure you use both of these paper joining techniques. So now that I've done this, this slit on the rectangular prism is too low to use because this paper that I'm using here goes up high. So I'm going to put a slit on this side of the rectangular prism to use the end of this. So now it stays there no problem. So if you do a slit and it won't stay there, try a different slit in a different area to see if you can get it to stay. And if it still won't stay, you know what you can do? You can cheat a little bit. Put a little bit of glue. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue right here, and I'm going to put that into the slit, and then I'm going to hold it and glue it into the slit so it doesn't move. Because slits, when you just put something into the slit and you don't glue it, it can fall out, and that might get really frustrating. So you might want to go ahead and cheat a little bit and put a little bit of glue. And there we go. So remember how my sculpture was top heavy on this side. Now that I put this heavy piece on this side, it's holding its shape and it's standing up on its own, which is wonderful. So you're going to keep building on your sculpture until you use all of these pieces. You can't cheat and throw anything away. So you're going to keep working, and you also want to spin it around and look at it from all sides to see what's interesting. So if you look at my sculpture from this side, I have a lot of dark blue. So I'm going to want to add something that has the pattern on the outside on this side so that it's interesting to look at, because this almost looks like the back, and it should be it should look like the front from all sides. So you're going to keep doing that until you have a finished sculpture that will stand up on its own and is interesting to look at from all sides. So with this one, you can see here's a number 0 here, and here's a number 0 here that I bent. And it looks like I had originally had this glued here like this, but it got ripped. Here, I cut some slits and then I curled them around a marker or a pencil. On this one, I cut some slits and then I crimped them by folding them back and forth. On this one, I curled it around a pencil or a marker. So there are different techniques that you can try to create your sculpture. And there you have your finished Combine simple forms to create a complex form in the round. Your sculpture in the round using simple forms. Good job.